Now, Noctie is going to think for the best way to try to defend this position. Whoa, okay, Noctie chooses bishop g5. Hello everyone, you know who it is, International Master Emil Stefanov, back at it again with weekly scenario number 5 in Noctie. As usual, make sure to practice the positions for yourself. Link is down in the description. Let's get started. Let's figure out what we have here. This is a bishop endgame, and black does have an extra pawn. However, all the pawns are on the same side of the board. In fact, this would have still been a drawn endgame if the bishop c1 move was not played. In this game, from the 2025 FIDE World Blitz Championship, Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces was playing Nodirbek Abdusattorov. This was the fourth game and a decisive one. So far, the result had been 1.5 to 1.5. With the last move, Nodirbek makes a huge mistake. Carlsen, of course, managed to spot the correct move and convert this into a win. Now, a little bit of a hint, okay? If you want to find out the move, feel free to do so. I'm going to give you a hint. Because we have 4 pawns, the only way we're going to manage to win is by being very careful of which pawns we trade. Of course, there's a way in which we can win an extra pawn. We're going to have 2 extra pawns, and the resulting endgame is going to be winning. However, the h1 square is a white square, okay? So, ideally, if white could trade all their pawns for all of our pawns, except the h-pawn, and they can even give up their bishop, the position is going to be a draw as long as the king can get to h1. That is the only way we mess up this endgame. There's really no other way in which we should be messing up this endgame. So, you've had some time to think. I'm going to show you the first move and the move that Magnus Carlsen played. Pawn to e3. A very powerful move, and the intention is very simple. If f takes c3 or bishop takes c3, the problem is the g3 pawn is hanging. Now, in this situation, we could still take it, bishop takes g3, because our king is extremely active, and it's also going to be attacking the bishop. After f takes g3, we're going to play king takes e3, and our king is going to run opposition to the enemy king. Now, Noctie is going to think for the best way to try to defend this position. Whoa, okay, Noctie chooses bishop g5. Okay, this is interesting. Now, remember what we talked about, okay? If we go bishop e5 and we defend this pawn, Noctie is actually very close to making a draw just by returning the bishop back to c1. Because then we'll be down to 3 versus 2 pawns, not sufficient for us to be able to win. So instead, our only option is going to be either bishop takes f2 or f takes g5. Now, if bishop takes f2, as I've already mentioned, after bishop f6, the pawn, all that white has to do after bishop takes f2 and bishop takes f6 is give up their bishop for the g pawn, and it's going to be a draw. So instead, what we're gonna have to do is take this bishop, challenge Noctie straight on f takes g5, f takes g3, and now we have to consider, do we play g4 or do we take gh4? And this is basic calculation. Either way, our king is more active than the opponent's king. We just need to decide in what manner we want to win, right? Or if both moves are winning, which I believe so. After g4, let's say king f2, king d2, king will be slowly forced back, and we will eventually be able to win the g3 pawn and the h4 pawn as well. So then we'll be simply winning. I'm assuming gh, king e3, king g2, king f4, king h3. King f3 is going to be the exact same way. I'm going to choose g4. That's the easier way for me to win, because after king d2, king will have to step backwards because I'm running opposition to the enemy king. And eventually I'm going to capture the g3 pawn. And from there I'm going to capture the h4 pawn. And the rest of the game is pretty simple. Now it's all about trying to checkmate, and it's not going to be too hard. King h3, we're going to play g2, and now we're just going to pass the move. So Noctie is forced to play king f2. Afterwards, we're going to play king h2, promote to a queen, and eventually finish out with a very nice and simple checkmate. We'll promote to a queen. We'll make sure the king cannot really run away anymore. And yeah, don't play queen d2, don't blunder stalemate, okay? There's a lot of stalemates we can go for, but let's not go for them, okay? Let's try to win the game. So queen b2, gonna bring the king around, and this is going to be checkmate on e2. So we already know that the first move is pawn to e3, and that's our only chance. If we play anything else, we're going to not be able to make any progress. If we place all our pawns on light squares, well, that's great, but how are we going to make a pass pawn? There is no way in which we can make a pass pawn. As you can see, now Noctie is covering the h4 pawn. We could still play e3, which is a good move, but after, let's see if Noctie is going to play bishop takes e3, bishop takes g5, which is an excellent move. But now Noctie is going to play bishop g5, and actually, we are not attacking the bishop anymore, and currently we have to withdraw our bishop back, and there's simply no way for us to make progress. What if instead of f5 we played something else? Well, our king is well positioned, our pawn really just wants to go to e3, we cannot make a pass pawn here because the bishop and pawn are covering, and moving our bishop makes no sense. If we just play bishop d4, as you see Noctie just plays bishop a3, and after e3, f takes e3, this seems like a lovely exchange, but after king g2, we're not going to be able to play king f3, and there's really no way for us to attack this pawn anymore. So this will just be a draw. Again, this is the only moment we have, and we have to utilize it correctly. The winning plan, you already know what it is. It is e3 followed up by bishop takes g3. See you in the next one.